The reason we shut down the economy, forcing hundreds of thousands of businesses to go under and millions of people to worry about their incomes. Here's what Fauci had to say about it in January of 2020.
But the one thing historically people need to realize that even if there is some asymptomatic transmission, in all the history of respiratory-borne viruses of any type, asymptomatic transmission has never been the driver of outbreaks. The driver of outbreaks is always a symptomatic person.
Really? Then why throughout the past year and a half advocate for a complete shutdown of the economy, for healthy people to wear masks, families to cancel get-togethers, asymptomatic kids to stay home from school for months on end, for people to die alone, and for now vaccinated asymptomatic people to wear masks and possibly cancel this Christmas? And then there's the vaccines. Fauci has flip-flopped or changed the goalposts a number of times regarding who needs a vaccine, how many people we need vaccinated, what you can or cannot do if vaccinated, whether or not you can or cannot spread the virus while vaccinated, whether or not you can or cannot get sick if vaccinated, how many shots of the vaccine we'll need. It's been a total mixed bag of messages and moving goalposts. So whether or not you think Fauci lied and is some sinister narcissistic character, or if you think Fauci is just trying the best he can during the most challenging time in his career, the reason he should be fired or retired is because of his inability to remain consistent, something he has even said is important when guiding people.
The other thing I think that's a very important principle is to be consistent. You have to have a certain fundamental set of principles that guide how you advise somebody, and you can't change them. You've got to be consistent, and sometimes your consistency is going to have a negative impact on somebody, and sometimes it's going to have a positive. But if you're consistent, then in the long range you're going to be very effective.
Now, the job of our scientists, especially our lead guiding scientists, should be to ignore the emotional outcries from those who are understandably and expectedly frightened during a viral outbreak, and unemotionally lead, even when the science is saying something other than we want to hear, but potentially knowingly lying to Congress, definitely knowingly lying to us to manipulate our behavior, flip-flopping on lockdowns, masks, or vaccines, and now calling for invasive mandates that impact people's health and further disrupt lives and businesses. Fauci has been the exact opposite of consistent. Now, what has been consistent are his dropping approval ratings, with the latest Rasmussen poll putting his approval at only 41%. Most of the country doesn't trust the one person we need to trust more than anyone right now. That's dismal. And my guess is after the latest news about the gain-of-function research and even the puppies, his approval will worsen. Now, I think even people who have approved of Fauci during this entire time, those those who really have thought, okay, Fauci really knows what he's talking about, at this point, even they should be calling for Joe Biden to fire him or calling for his forced resignation, just for simply the fact that in order for us to get through this pandemic, we need to have everybody together on board with some sort of consistent action. And Fauci's clearly not that guy. I mean, if the majority of people just do not approve of him, if people are feeling like, I don't know about this guy, how are we going to do that?
The charges themselves are something that are basically unprecedented in U.S. legal history. And so to make confident claims about what would happen and how those would proceed seems to be a little overconfident at this point.
Yeah, I asked General Kellogg about the Yahoo report because I thought the former President Trump's comment in it where he said, I actually thought that Assange has been treated very badly was really interesting because it doesn't seem like many other people in his administration agreed with that at all. What do you expect, or how do you expect any discussion of that Yahoo report to be treated actually in court?
Yeah, it's hard to say, in part because I think about how it would be the way that it could play into a U.S. court proceeding, and it's very different, obviously. But it does seem like that sort of reporting and it is a fact pattern that we just can't. I mean, you can ask General Kellogg and you can get Pompeo on the record, but there's some things about this that the court should take into advisement but won't know for sure. And so it will be interesting to see how the defense presents it, and and what it means. I mean, like at the Freedom of the Press Foundation, a comparison that we've drawn before in terms of Espionage Act proceedings is, of course, to the Pentagon Papers and to Daniel Ellsberg, who's a founding member of our board. And in that case, it was really a procedural and misconduct of prosecutors that ended up making the difference. And history has reflected this as really a vindication of a whistleblower. But at the time, it was the fact that the Nixon administration was engaged in some really bad behavior.
That's a good point.
Yeah, they broke into a psychiatrist's office. They otherwise contemplated all sorts of crazy things. The parallels are very interesting. As we speak, Joe Biden is down at the Capitol meeting with House Democrats. The reports that we're getting out of that meeting are that the billionaire tax is indeed getting shuttled out of this. There are also reports that the drug price negotiation provision is probably getting stripped out as well, which is remarkable considering that Democrats ran in 2006 on allowing Medicare to negotiate drug prices, ran again in 2018 allowing Medicare to negotiate drug prices. Their entire campaign in 2018 and Biden significantly in 2020 was about lowering drug prices. That seems to be getting shuttled away. But Miki, on the question of capital allocation, so Elon Musk is saying that really, private people, industry is better at allocating capital. Elon Musk is aware, though, that most of the capital that he's obtained through, say, SpaceX was allocated by the federal government to him. Is he not? Where does he think? He knows this, right? Does he think his followers don't know that?
I assume so. I mean, I think that this is a convenient spin, and it's just he's basically shown his cards. I mean, this is a man who talks about limited government, and unless he needs that government to help him out. I mean, to make that much money in the course of a pandemic is, it's hard to even process that. And I think that for Joe Manchin and Elon Musk to be playing these games at this moment, and our public officials, I'm just based on the reporting, what you just reported, I'm in shock. This is, these aren't out of line. I'm really in shock. Like, I'm at a lot of loss of words for what's happening on Capitol Hill right now. But what Elon Musk is essentially against is very basic things. We're not talking about, a large sum of taxes. We're talking about being taxed on his stock and bonds and certain liquid assets, things that that is basically how he made his money during the pandemic. It wasn't through, the fact that he made record profits because he sold all these Teslas. It's because he makes money in the stock market. It's because he has investors who are investing in these loopholes that Washington has provided for him and his billionaire colleagues. And I think, it has to stop. This is outrageous what's happening right now on Capitol Hill. And the fact that Nancy Pelosi is there for it, just, everyone's showing their cards right now. That's what it is. You have Joe Manchin with his back up against the wall. You have Nancy Pelosi trying not to get her fingerprints on this. And you have Elon Musk thinking he can get away with this kind of rhetoric. And he will. He will.
Yeah, it's a little different, though, because, under this proposal, you're going to be taxing these unrealized gains. That was so. Then, if the stock price of Tesla goes down, he hasn't cashed out. If you taxed him, then the price it's no longer worth that. Or is the government going to refund him? So there is some
refundable credit.
What do you think about the plan, Rena?
Well, I'll say this. I share Nomiki's outrage, and outrage is not a word I use lightly. What is happening on Capitol Hill right now is you don't have to be anywhere on the political spectrum just to be completely shocked at the very fact that the regulators are the ones not being regulated. We have U.S. senators who engage in insider trading with no consequence. We have people like Joe Manchin who are enriching themselves by simply being a U.S. senator from my home state of West Virginia, where I can assure you, not many billionaires. You look at the governor of West Virginia. You've got a poor state like West Virginia and their senator who is the guy who's literally carrying the water for billionaires here. They're not going to feel the pain. It's the people that want to move from one station, like middle class, to wealthy in America, which is the beauty of America, by the way. They're the ones who are going to feel the pain with Biden's tax plan. And now Democrat senators doing this too. It just shows you we need serious political reform in this country. This is not just about the finances. The very fact that Nancy Pelosi thinks it's acceptable to do this kind of stuff in the dark of night in the cloakroom It tells you everything. These people rely on massive donations from corporations. And you've got Elon Musk over here who's engaging in tax schemes like other billionaires. This is how they enrich themselves. And it crosses over, and we're seeing it play out in real time and how sick it is, because they can't do anything for the average American who it goes from middle class one day to wealthy the next day, who aspires to do that. Our tax code is a joke. It's completely complicated. And the fact that these billionaires are still not going to feel any pain from Biden's tax plan just tells you that his campaigning, frankly, didn't really care about the moderates or the centrists. It was meant to help, again, the very wealthy Americans who will feel no pain.